back to another episode of Hello Ladies, where feminism meets pro wrestling. We are your hostesses with the mostesses. I am Sabrina,
And I'm MJ.
and today we are going to be discussing the box office hit, The Iron Claw. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, MJ saw this before I did, but I've caught up now and have watched the movie. For anyone who is watching on YouTube this, if you notice that my eye is leaking, it just knows the assignment for today. I do have a bit of a cold and sinus pressure, so I might also, I don't know if I sound sick or not, but yeah, that's what's going on with me. So if I look weird,
Well, yeah, I don't think you look weird though.
I appreciate that.
What
Uh,
if this is just like a cleansing experience overall, right? Like you getting like those tears out, you're just pushing out like that final bit of the sickness, you know?
maybe. Yeah, that is a way to look at it. As long as, like, I do feel better today. I just
hmm
don't look better. I feel like I sound better, but
Yeah, you sound great.
um I guess that's what matters. I think most people listen to us. So to the Iron Claw, um you watched with another wrestling fan, correct?
Ready.
Oh, I thought you went with, oh no. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess yeah, Freddie probably does have an in-depth amount of knowledge now in his little doggy brain about
I
wrestling.
think he just wanted to see shirtless Zac Efron, I'm pretty sure.
That's also how I got my friends to go.
No, just ignore the haircut. Just
Yeah.
ignore the wig.
Yeah. I had two female friends that went with me. One is like a casual WWE fan, like she watches the Big Four. Um,
Uh-huh.
and then the other one, her sister, no like concept of wrestling at all. So, but she's a big Zac Efron fan and Jeremy Allen White. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure like after Jeremy Allen White's Calvin Klein uh ad came out that there's probably a renewed interest in going to see the Iron Claw. But that man broke the internet.
Brilliant timing on that campaign release. I'm not sure if the Iron Claw was keyed into that or not initially, but wow, that like couldn't have been a better promotion to go see that movie.
Right. It's like he's gonna have his shirt off a lot, folks.
Exactly. Oh my God, the guys looked so good in this movie. I think that Jeremy Allen White said he put on 40 pounds of muscle for this, I want to say, which is crazy. And he was still like insecure sitting next to Zac Efron. So I was like, he looked great, you know?
Zac Efron was giving me warrior energy. Like
Oh yeah.
like
Yes.
how his body looked. I was like, I'm not sure if I think his body was probably better than any of the Von Erichs. Like
Mm. They were pretty cut. I don't know.
they
They were pretty
were.
fucking cut.
They were. Well, yeah. As we saw in the movie, steroids.
I was gonna I was gonna say that, but I saw a comment on a post and it was like something about it was something about either like when AJ Styles or Randy came back, right? And there's all this speculation that they're doing like some sort of like hormone treatment or something, you know? And so like people in the comments were I hate when I see a horrible comment that gets a ton of likes.
Mm.
And it was something along the lines of like, you know what, whatever anybody says, steroids aren't even bad for you. And then like it had like a ridiculous amount of likes, and I was just like, oh my God, please stop with this.
In the year 2024, do they think that they're the same steroids that you get when you're sick?
I know, right? I mean, I think that they're thinking of just steroids in terms of like either like some sort of hormone replacement theory, like therapy, or like because obviously as we age, we lose hormones. So I mean, that's natural. That's more natural if AJ or Randy's taking that versus steroids. It's not the same thing as like injecting yourself with steroids. It's not the same thing. And I think people are uneducated about that, is what it seems like to me.
Wrestling fans, the human population as a whole, uneducated? That can't be
I
the
know.
answer.
What am I talking about?
Let me just insult both us and everyone who listens to this podcast all at once. Obviously, it's no one who listens to this podcast because you're all the most intelligent.
Obviously, yes. You obviously have impeccable taste and
Mhm.
are brilliant. So
I bet you yourselves are snazzy dressers because I mean, clearly.
shout out Tyler.
When in doubt, shout out Tyler. Um,
But yeah, it's always crazy when like horrible takes get traction and then everybody believes it. And then now you have a whole. I actually had a boss once who did steroids, and he used to brag about being a teenager and injecting himself with steroids, and then he would stick the needles on his bedroom wall. So he had all his used steroid needles on his wall. Yeah. And the woman that he was talking to, who eventually became the CEO of that company, was talking about how her husband makes steroids in their garage and how he had an entire like fucking what the hell is it called, a file cabinet, like a giant one filled with like all the steroids in their garage. And then so it was just me. It was one of those days where everybody else was working from home and I was in the office with these two, and I'm just like trying to like focus on my work and not listen, but I'm just sitting here like, what is going on?
what the fuck is happening in Arizona?
I've been asking myself that since 2006.
Jeez Louise. Can you imagine like walking into that dude's bedroom? Because like his parents had to be fine with it if he was doing that, or they were terrified
Clearly.
of him.
Or never home or something, you know?
Yeah, but like imagine like you're dating that guy and you show up and you see the wall with needles shoved into it. I, woof,
It
I,
sounds like a scene from like the movie Seven or something, you know? Like that you've seen Seven where like all the air fresheners are in that room when they walk in.
I've never
That's what it
seen
reminds.
that. No.
It's definitely not your type of movie. But yeah, I will get into it. But it was just like something crazy where you walk and you're just like, what the fuck is this?
Um,
Should we
so
start from the beginning of the movie, kind of ish, and kind of go through it at least as best we can?
yeah. Like, I knew, so it made the most sense to me because I didn't watch a ton of stuff leading up to um
The movie.
like I yeah, because I know the Von Erich story, like I've
Sure.
seen quite a bit about it, and I was just like, I don't need to cry before I cry.
Yeah,
So, um, I had a feeling, like in my mind, I'm like, well, Zac Efron probably plays the one who lives. Like, if I had to guess,
sure, sure.
being Kevin. Um, but that was about all the knowledge or like figuring out of the movie that I had done beforehand because I really
Yeah.
tried not to look up a damn thing clearly. Um,
I was a similar boat too, because I transparency too, everybody always tells me, watch Dark Side of the Ring, watch Dark Side of the Ring. I refuse to because I'm just one of those people that like while I enjoy peeling back the curtain, sometimes things get too heavy for me to the point where I'm just like, I can't, you know? And like you and I've talked about this on here before, but I, especially like growing up as a kid being a big Ric Flair fan, everyone has really said, do not watch that episode. So in my head, I have a general idea, obviously, of things that Ric Flair has done, but I don't want to have to sit there and watch it, you know, front and center. I can know those things without having to like re-expose myself to that kind of shit. So I don't watch Dark Side of the Ring for that, for many of those reasons. Like I don't want to see all that stuff. It's hard for me to watch that. But yeah, so with the Von Erichs, I knew about the same as you, and I didn't realize there were that many suicides. Like I yeah. I mean, it goes without saying, right? Spoiler alert on this, obviously, on this whole podcast. But yeah, I didn't realize that there were that many suicides. And I was like, oh my God. I saw it coming with Michael too. And I was just so like, ugh.
um, so I remembered that Carrie's was a suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered one of them. and because I remember the accident happened and then suicide.
Yeah.
I couldn't, I remembered something tragic like happened to Michael. I didn't remember, like I remembered accident. Um,
Yeah.
and then David, I remembered it was a like weird medical thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine like how much Kevin must have beaten himself up about that, like not making his brother go to a doctor. Like that's ugh. Um, and it's not his fault, obviously, but um,
I that's how I felt the whole time. I love the way that they wrapped this whole story around Kevin so much because like the amount of empathy that we feel for him, it's like it really just drove the story in such a beautiful way. And like even initially, like when he approaches his mom and he's like, "Mom, you need to tell Dad to lay off Michael." You know, it's he bullies him too hard, and how she has that line where she's like, "Figure it out amongst your brothers. It's not, I'm not part of it." And I was just like, that kind of level of deflection, like first is like a kid who's gone through trauma and not felt supported as a kid. Watching that, I was like, "Fuck, oh, it just it, I really, and I can't imagine like 'cause that is my parents' generation, right? Is like what Kevin would have been essentially, right? And so watching that, or I guess my grandparents' generation, I don't know, I'm
yeah,
getting confused. But I guess seeing like a lot of that toxic masculinity throughout the entire thing and like all that generational trauma and like, oh my God, it was so it was that was the hardest part honestly about the whole movie for me to watch that is like seeing how that toxic masculinity unfolds and manifests and like
mhm.
how it just permeated everything and just destroyed these people, these lives.
Yeah, and it was so sad because like two of them had a chance of getting out. The two that committed suicide, honestly, like if the Olympics hadn't been canceled that year, or not canceled, but if the US didn't participate, Carrie's life could have been completely different. Um,
Yeah,
if if either parent had supported Michael's music,
music.
completely different. Like he would have gone on to school, and the two Von Erichs would have had, well, up until, what happened with David, but the two of them still would have made the family known. Like, ugh, bleh. Um, that was like the hardest thing, I think, seeing like the clear crossroads and them just being forced onto a path. Um,
I did not know that Michael actually wrestled. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't know that piece of the story. And so seeing that, I was just like, it's just fucked up. It's crazy. Like, I don't know. I think about like seeing people who don't necessarily fit a mold for families that they're in and being forced to kind of go on that route.
mhm.
Um, like with my ex, him on the res, that all of the family goes into like emergency medical services, all of them. And so if you kind of divert away from that path, like you're kind of like it's just not seen as an outsider, but it's just like you don't fit in as much. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't have things to relate to with your family as much because you don't follow like you're not a firefighter, you're not a cop, or you're not a paramedic, basically. And it's like you're just kind of like
Yeah.
other in a way. And so it still obviously happens in that way, but that is like a much heavier, intense pressure that these kids experienced.
Yeah, because like at least Carrie, since it was still sports related, like his parents still supported him.
Yeah.
Michael wasn't going to get that. Like they made
Mhm.
it very clear, basically, you do this, you're, not really part of this family anymore, which is crazy. Um,
Yeah.
like, and like, it's so bizarre because I think if this was even if it was in the 90s or something, they saw the talent that Michael had with music and production and camera angles. It could have been such a huge asset to them in
Mhm.
doing that. Like he was built to be part of the wrestling business, just not in front of the camera. And
Sure.
like that would be a dream, I think, for some wrestling families to have a person who is capable of doing those things. And, dad didn't have that vision. He was just like, no, you must slather yourself in oil, wear your underwear, and slap meaty men. Like that is the only masculine thing that my boys may do.
Yeah. It's crazy to me too because when in that movie when you see Michael lose everything, even like functioning and like and do the one thing he loved to begin with, it's just like in playing guitar, of course.
Yeah. Eh, God.
Heavy,
It was so
heavy, heavy.
yeah. I
Yeah,
so many tears. So many tears. Because I think one of the things that they said during the one interview I saw where they had puppies um was the one thing they really wanted to translate on screen was how close the brothers were, because that was
yeah,
like, and watching The Dark Side of the Ring or anything about the Von Erichs, like that's the one thing like that people have always said how close those boys, quote unquote, were, and how much they loved each other. And I can't I can't imagine having that like ripped away and being the one that is left. Like I remember like watching that, I got so mad for like when Carrie commits suicide, I'm so mad for Kevin because that's actively choosing. Then like the suicide note he had there was the actual, well, not like the actual suicide, but that's what was written in it. Um, I can't imagine like
yeah.
what a big fuck you to Kevin, right? Like, yeah, you got this. And I'm sure that's what he figured. Like, he had his own family. I think if he hadn't met his wife, like, Lord knows how that man's world would have turned out.
I think it's interesting. I don't want to say I don't. I'm probably going to slaughter my explanation of this, so hang in with me. But I think about like that time period, right? And it's obviously this whole thing spans through the 70s, the 80s, and a little bit of the 90s and stuff too. And then of course we fast forward a little bit to the future. But I feel like it's interesting how even though the brothers were so close, how you and I've touched on like male intimacy and like how men, even when they are brothers or friends, they don't have the same connections that women do emotionally. Like we don't like, I'll if I'm having like a shitty day, I know I can send you a voice memo and be like, girl, like
Mhm.
my fucking day was crazy. And like I feel like they only really opened up, at least how we're seeing it portrayed in this, right? They only really opened up when it got to like the final breaking point, like when it was the straw that broke the camel's back. That's when we see Carrie call Kevin from the hotel room, and he's just like, dude, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm just done. And then Kevin obviously rushes and tries to make it to him on time.
Mhm.
But I just think about like how I feel so frustrated for men, how, and of course, we're talking about the patriarchy and how this all ties in with toxic masculinity. And like, men aren't supposed to have feelings. Men can be physically strong and tough, but like, they got to tough out their feelings. And I just felt so much pain for men watching this movie, like men then and still men now, just how it just screws them over, how they just don't have these safe spaces to communicate, and obviously not every woman has that, but we just foster a different community and different culture with communication, whereas men are just not really encouraged to do that. And it sucks how even though these brothers were so close and loved each other so deeply and so intensely, they were still, they were told just work it out between y'all, but that doesn't, no one taught them how to do that. It seems like no one taught them how to talk through their feelings and to really be there like emotionally for each other. So
Yes, all of that. And skipping way to the end of the movie, one of the final scenes where um we've talked about this before, like the difference between like different generations and parenting. And we see
yes.
like the moment that like Kevin's on the lawn with the boys watching them playing, he's crying and they come up to him. I'm gonna start crying just like thinking about Zac Efron did such a great job with that scene. Um,
Yes.
but saying, when he's crying and he says, like, I'm sorry, boys, you shouldn't be seeing me like this.
Yeah.
And don't cry. And the boys are like, we cry all the time, Dad. And like he doesn't, I think in that moment he realizes like he he has been allowing his boys to experience emotions because like he thinks they
Yes.
should, but he was still holding himself to that shitty standard that his parents
Yeah.
taught him. And in that moment, like you see like that link of generational trauma break for him, like
Oh my
he's doing it for his kids. Um, and when they're like, "We'll be your brother," oh, and it's just beautiful. And I'm so happy he was able to break the family trauma and like break the quote unquote family curse, which
God.
man, you talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everything but David, like the rest of them,
Yeah.
that was very much so like we believe in this curse.
Yeah.
Ugh,
I know.
can't escape it. Mine is like life is just going to be suffering. Ugh, yeah.
I know. And it's funny because I sat there in the movie theater. I love being sensitive and I like have no shame in crying, but I got in the movie and I was like, I don't know if I'll cry at this one. We'll see. We'll see. And like this is coming from the girl who cries at fucking like Allstate commercials if they're sad enough. So I'm like, of
Yeah.
course I'm gonna cry at the Iron Claw. But I had a moment where I was like, okay, I think I'm done crying now. I like collected myself a little bit, like, and I'm definitely not somebody who's like, rub some dirt in it. I'm fine. Just pick like it's like, no, I'm like, if I gotta cry, if I feel it, I'm gonna let it out. And I'm like sitting there and I see them at the end. I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a happy ending. And then they drop that line, like, we'll be your brothers, and then
Oh yeah.
like that healing, you just see that happening. And I just instantly was just like pouring from my eyes. Uh
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so glad that they ended with like the update on Kevin and his wife and their family and like all the grandkids and how
yeah.
he got to accomplish his dream. Unfortunately, it wasn't with his brothers, but like imagine what kind of close-knit family him and his wife have created. If the family chose to like all stay together and just beautiful. That's assuming that they're they're not secretly running a cult. One thing that I did appreciate though, because I have watched The Dark Side of the Ring, I'm pretty sure that's the one where Kevin's in it talking um quite a bit, and you see him like in at their home. I want to say he's like in like a tree house at one point with his shoes off. He has his shoes off the entire time, and he talks about how he really likes getting his feet in the dirt and all of that. And I love throughout the entire movie, like you just see him all the time without his shoes on, and that was such like the second I saw him without the shoes on, I was like, "Yep, I know who this is." Because I'm terrible with the names, specifically mixing up Kevin and Carrie because they're both K's and that's too much for my wee brain apparently. Um, although I
Meanwhile,
yeah,
I always forget David's name every time for
mm,
whatever reason. I don't know why. Every time.
yeah. Um,
Poor David.
I do think after seeing this movie though, I won't get them confused. Um,
Man. On it, and shout out to Chavo who helped them with like the stunt coordination and all this. Like
mhm.
insane. And like I got more hyped for this movie because I'm a huge Chris Van Vliet fan, as you know, and he did a really great episode with Chavo, and it was just so sick hearing about all the stuff Chavo does behind the scenes. He also did it on Glow too.
Yes, yeah.
Uh,
He was on Glow
and
too on screen.
yeah, that's right. And just how fucking humble he is too. And like I watched a clip the other day too that showed that Chavo actually was taking the test shots, like the impact of everything, so that way they could kind of like feel things on him and like test it out. And so he said something along the lines of like, if I'm expecting them to do it, I want them to like do it on me too. And so it's just like he just has a really cool like approach as like a coach and a teacher and a trainer. He's just so professional and like I love it. It's cool for us to see him get like this cool renaissance because he's one of those people that just never got the credit he deserved.
Yeah, 100% agree. I've heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but because Iron Claw did so well, they're looking at doing one either about Eddie Guerrero or about the Guerreros, which would
You
be
know what's so funny is on
phenomenal.
that podcast too. he said he wouldn't want to do one. And then like a week after Ironclad came out, I saw that headline and I was cracking up because I don't know, it cracked me. It's cool. It's really the Guerreros would be so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder if one of the reasons like he wouldn't want to necessarily do like when a movie is made about a family, if everyone except one person is dead, you're not going to have so much fighting. If even half the people are still alive, like oof, oof, oof,
Did
oof.
you see that Pedro Pascal reached out to Chavo? Did you see that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, like months before he was on that podcast with Chris Van Vliet, like at least months before, Pedro Pascal slid into Chavo's DMs and was like, "I want to play Eddie." Can you fucking imagine?
Oh, that would be. I feel like he could do Eddie justice.
Right? Oh my God.
Um, boy, yeah, that would be fantastic. What did you think of the actor?
Are you
uh,
gonna say Ric Flair?
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's funny because it did take me out of it a little bit for a second because I feel like the whole time I was watching this movie, I was locked in. Like I forgot where I was. I was so engrossed in the story, and I feel like movies don't always do that because I have such ADHD, like such literal ADHD, and so I feel like my mind is always just ping ponging everywhere, focused on something else I have to do. I was locked in the entire movie until the Ric Flair thing, and then I was just kind of like, I did like a little head jerk of like, that was weird, huh? But then I didn't have anybody to turn to other than Freddie to be like, that was fucking weird, right? And Freddie was passed out like 10 minutes into that movie.
Yeah, my friends definitely would not have understood like the actor sounded like Ric Flair because when like during the promo, like if I didn't look at him, I'm like I can hear Ric Flair. If looking
Yeah,
at him, I don't see Ric Flair. I don't know what I'm seeing. But
yeah.
um, and I think it might just be like if you put Ric Flair's hair on anybody else, they're going to look so fucking weird. Um,
He wasn't like as big as Flair either, right? Because Flair was huge back then. I'm trying to like. It's also been a few weeks since I've seen Iron Claw. I feel like his timing on the mannerisms were off too. Like Flair is such a hard person to replicate. Like he's fucking Ric Flair. Obviously love him, hate him. If you see everything he's done, you understand. But like still his charisma is unmatched. Let's be honest. The man fucking knows how to do a promo like no other. And so when you have a promo of Ric Flair in a movie and it's not Ric Flair doing it,
yeah, like when they had the promo bits where it wasn't on him, but they were showing other things in the movie, and I'm like, yeah, I'm buying this. But the second they went back to the actor, I was like, no. Like,
yeah.
I, and I don't envy the task of trying to copy, like to translate that. The guy that they got to play Harley Race looked very much so like Harley Race. Um,
Yes.
I was just like, damn, this is good. This is good. I also loved at one point like seeing Ryan Nemeth as
Yes.
like one of their opponents. I caught the MJF part. I understand he was supposed to have a larger part in it initially, but well, I want to see like all of the footage that they have on this so badly. Um,
Me too. I think I never buy like DVDs or Blu-rays or anything, but this is what I would buy for sure.
do they make those
I think so. I think didn't Target or Best Buy somewhere just got rid of like their DVD section entirely,
anymore?
or maybe both.
I don't know. I would definitely watch like an extended cut of Iron Claw, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And deleted scenes for sure, yeah.
oh yeah. Um, I also really enjoyed the actor who played David. He had
Yes.
such a great energy. Like
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I was like watching him, I was like, I could see why as soon as I saw him, I like parts of Dark Side of the Ring popped up where someone was talking about the different Von Erichs, and they said like David had it all. And like had superstar written all over him. And
Yeah.
as soon as like that came to mind immediately, I think the actor really has a presence, which I mean all actors,
Yeah.
but like just exploded off that screen.
I agree. I totally agree. And when you're talking about it, what popped in my mind was the scene where uh Kevin was trying to cut the promo and he kept fucking it up. And then David's just sitting there roasting him. And it just, honestly, I got so sucked into this goddamn movie because I literally felt like I was just watching another family. You know, I just literally felt like I was just sitting front row seat, like watching a family's life, like a story unfold. And like how you had mentioned, like the one goal they really had was to show that connection and their love for each other on screen. And like they totally nailed it because like that scene is like one of the first things that hooked me in the movie. I was like, oh, this is so good, you know?
Yeah. The I have to give like Kevin a lot of props for being so I don't even know if it would be restrained. I so after Michael's suicide,
Yeah.
that's when I would have strangled dear old dad. Like that would
Oh,
have been it.
God.
Like they did like such a great job of like making him baby brother like in the movie who like one needs to protect at all costs, and then that happened and oof, oof.
Didn't he start to strangle his dad after Carrie?
Oh yeah, and I was just like
Yeah,
I don't know how you didn't murder this man sooner.
I know. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. God, I know. And like Michael just seemed like the purest angel of a human too. And like it was clear he would do anything to please his family, his father, and like that's why he did it. He got into wrestling, you know, and it's just like I I understand, or I can understand. I'm not gonna say I understand, but I can understand like the weird husband wife pressures, the dynamics of that time period. But it still makes me so fucking pissed as a woman, like it knowing that if I had children, how I would care for them and like fearlessly fucking protect the shit out of them, and just seeing like obviously the father. I'm not trying to put all the blame on the mother, of course, but the father's the one who's like literally putting the kids through this bullshit, but the mom is just kind of like not my deal, you know? Like, I'm just kind of like, the whole thing just pisses me off. It's like you have this man who's inflicting all of this, you have a woman who's allowing it. And I can't imagine like living in that time period. You know, it's already so fucking frustrating living in this current timeline that we want out of so badly. I just can't, I can't imagine being a woman in that time period.
And I think a lot of it is she was probably worn down by him because think in the beginning, when dear old dad is the wrestler and he comes out from that event and he has sold their
Mm-hmm.
car and switched it out for this more expensive one,
Yes.
and she has no say,
Yeah.
no say. And I think it's really important to remember in this time frame, like women couldn't have bank accounts without like their name on a bank account without their
Sure.
husband. They couldn't have credit cards. They couldn't do shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think because that in the very beginning, that's the only time we really see them argue. And after that, it seems like she has no fight in her. Like she's just like
Yeah.
accepted that like whatever he says is going to go, and that's how things are. But at the
Right.
same time, you can see that like his parents love each other. Um, and clearly are still very physically attracted to each other. Um, as we see in the wedding
I know.
scene.
I
Um,
think that's what's so. great about this movie is it like really captured all these different sides and angles to relationships too. And so in that it's and it got me so conflicted watching it, right? Because I thought of the time period, how toxic everything was. I thought of like how fucked up society was, like you talked about, like how a woman couldn't even open bank accounts. So it's like I feel like my mind was spiraling through all of these thoughts while watching it, and it's just you're so angry because like I just want to fix things, and so my head is just like, why is this so fucked up? And it's like it's easy to put these things back together, but obviously there's so many like fucked up factors at play.
Yeah, and then seeing her name was Amy, right? The
Kevin's wife.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing her relationship with uh the mother, and like at the
Yes.
wedding, like this, all the men in the family love her, and then mom makes that comment at the wedding, like, oh, see how nice she looks if she puts a little effort into it. And I was just like,
Yes.
oh, I would set that woman on fire. um
And how later in the movie, when Carrie, yeah, exactly, how it comes full circle when Carrie's being put to rest, and how she's just like, I don't want to wear this dress, and like Amy's like literally reassuring her and like there for her. And so it's just like it's funny because I feel like I've seen this play out in so many like relationships with older women that I've known too, and like it's it's hard. It's just really hard. So,
yeah, and not to stereotype, the relationships I've seen that have been like that are when it is the only woman in the family. Um, she has just boys or a majority boys, like a
sure.
majority, and then, you have another woman enter, and it's just like this weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And then sometimes those relationships get creepy and like I don't want to say incestuous, but they get very much like these are my boys and like no one's gonna take my boys away from me, and you're just like, ooh, ooh.
it's like, I understand that you haven't had a lot of control in your life, and the only thing you've had control over are, quote, your boys, but you need therapy. We're going to
I
sign you up.
I mean, yeah, and then that generation really did not believe in therapies overall, like a vast. So it's just, and they just continued creating these issues that their parents passed down to them, and like putting it on their children, and the whole thing. Like the movie is so beautiful in the way that it just very lightly implied all of these things, and just makes you like, especially like the things that you brought up too. If you have like a background information of like what society was like at that time for men, for women, and like
In
just
Texas.
crazy. In Texas, yes. And also like you think about pro wrestling in terms of the territories too that were alive and well back then, and how important it was, like how NWA was seen as like this thing, whereas now it's just kind of like it's interesting how the difference that like 50 whatever years makes, right? Because you're just
Yeah.
like, okay, NWA is still alive thanks to people. I'm not going to thank them, but it's still there, right? It's still present. But you have WWE now, and it's interesting how, and it kind of showcases that transition a little bit during this film as well. But it's just interesting how the territories were alive and well, and how different it was then, and now how all of these larger wrestling promotions just kind of run things.
Yeah, and although he was not in the movie, and I don't think he had that much to do with the Von Erichs, specifically when they were running their own territory. Jim Ross's book, Once You Get Over the Problems, was great because it gave me a good foundational knowledge about like the territories and how they were running and interacting with each other. And yeah, because I think
Yeah.
the ones I've heard the most about are Jerry the King Lawler, like Memphis, because
Yes.
I mean he's had such a storied career in the mainstream, and of course everything with Andy Kaufman. And I was
Mm-hmm.
a huge Taxi fan as a child, so um
Oh,
I was very interested then in learning, that connection. So I learned about that, but that's such a like a teeny tiny piece of the puzzle of the territories. And it was one of those things because I was with non-wrestling fans, I really had to like pull myself back and be like, do not just start spouting off all of this knowledge that you have because this is not going to be fun for them. And we're all really
no info
traumatized.
dumping.
Yeah. Yeah. I did tell them if they wanted to know more about the Von Erichs that they could watch Dark Side of the Ring. Specifically I said if you want to continue this trauma, um, watch the Dark Side of the Ring. That was my exact words. Um, but oh God, it was such a great movie. And like even I had heard great reviews, I remember sitting in the theater and I was like, what if this is awful?
Huh.
I had like a pile of napkins with me from concessions for like, and I went through all of them, just sobbing. Um, so I was prepared for it not to be awful, but
Yeah,
oh,
it was so good. It was like honestly the best movie I've seen in a while.
I don't go to the movies very often anymore. The last one I saw before
Mhm.
this was Barbie, and before that was the Nicolas Cage and
Pedro Pascal.
yeah. Um, and I don't remember the last movie before that. So
Hmm.
I think I see one movie a year, so now I'm done for the rest of this year. But um
Nice.
I feel I've spent my one movie well. Um the I do want to talk about um I feel like there was a scene that was put in specifically like as a thank you to Kevin, like a gift to him basically, which is, and again, I'm probably gonna cry. It's after Carrie's suicide, um, where it shows Carrie on the boat heading towards the dock and his brothers are there.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah.
It killed me, like so many tears. Like that's such an emotionally heavy scene to begin with, and then having that cut in, oh my God. I like full on sobbed. I had run out of tissues, so I I still had like soggy ones, and I was just like, oh, it was so good. Like them all hugging and this like beautiful moment. And then like the youngest brother who was 5, him there.
It
It
was
was
the oldest brother.
yeah, yeah. It was beautifully done. But yeah, I feel like that was such a I think it was a gift to, I mean, you could say for the audience too, but like, I feel like for Kevin, that was just like the people who wrote it must have fallen in love with him and were like, we're gonna give this guy something. He's had a tough life.
He seems like a cool guy, honestly.
Yeah,
I love that he's been getting featured on AEW, like with his sons and stuff too. Like that's been pretty cool to watch.
yeah, and Orange Cassidy. I was like, yeah,
Oh,
this is an appropriate person to put them with.
really cool.
Um, One of the things I think AEW does really well is because Tony Khan is a fan of wrestling, is he holds the correct reverence for people like Kevin Von Erich. And I think because he does things so right with that, that's why we were able to have um Owen Hart come back to wrestling basically in a form as well.
Yeah,
Um So that's something that he does right.
I agree. And I'm gonna totally, I can't, I'm literally blanking as we're talking, but like a very prominent wrestler and trainer, was the entire, and his passing was the entire reason why Wrestle Dream was created as a pay-per-view, as a way to honor him. And so
Yeah.
it is really cool, and it's interesting. It's Tony Khan's always going to get shit for being a wrestling fan, but he does have immense wrestling knowledge, like the history of professional wrestling, and he understands the significance and, like what you said, the importance of things and the reverence. So it's like he gets it, you know?
Most of the time, I think Tony Khan being a wrestling fan is a positive
Sure.
for everyone. Most
Hmm.
of the time. Not
Right. Agreed.
all of the time. For those who couldn't
For
see,
those who are listening.
I'm wearing an
Go ahead.
AEW CM Punk shirt, and at the top it says CM Punk. So I said, when I said not all of the time, I just like showed off the CM Punk part. Um, but otherwise,
I know I know it's necessarily related at all to Iron Claw. It is related to your background behind you, though. We did see Jungle Boy
oh
come
yes.
back at the oh my God, the New Japan show that was just in San Jose, which was crazy. And so we saw, and him wearing the scapegoat armband was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. This could be a great heel run.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see what he's gonna do.
Hmm.
It was, I mean, 2024 has been a great kickoff for wrestling, like the beginning of 2024. Because I
Yeah.
Nick Nemeth has been fucking everywhere, it seems. Two places, but everywhere. And I'm very excited to see what he's going to do. I did giggle when he was trying not to like rip um the underlying TNA shirt. Um,
Yeah.
because you could see him being like, ah, shit, shit. And then he got it. Um, sometimes I love those moments, those like very human moments where you can like really
Yes.
connect with the person behind the character. Um, Deanna Purrazzo coming to AEW. Um,
Oh yeah.
I'm I
Her feud with Mariah May is going to be awesome. I can't wait.
she oh eventually we're gonna get her and Britt Baker, and I
It's going
eagerly,
to cook.
yeah, eagerly await. Um, but yeah, and yeah, I'm very excited to be a wrestling fan. Like, and I feel like things like Iron Claw, when I was watching, it's like this is gonna be such a tipping point because this is gonna bring more people in to wrestling.
Yes.
They're gonna be interested in, especially like I don't know if you saw Zac Efron's uh, Instagram post maybe or tweet. It was, pictures of him in Iron Claw saying like how much respect he has for professional wrestling and for wrestlers and like how much he enjoys it. And I'm just like,
Yes.
I would love like, and I'm like, there's no way Triple H isn't like calling me like, so WrestleMania, do you wanna like be there in some way, shape, or form, friend? Um,
Chavo did say in an interview, because Chris Van Vliet was like, "What would it? Do you think that the time that you had with the guys in the ring, these actors, that you prepped them for an actual match, like could they go?" And then Chavo was just quick to be like, "No, no, that's not what I trained them for. I trained them to be camera ready with like certain spots and like to have like these matches in a certain way." He's like, "But give me some time with them." He's like, "I could make that happen, you know?" And so it's kind of like a, ooh, I love that Chris asked that, because that was where my mind went. Like, I love it. I think it'd be so sick.
yeah, and I loved sorry, Cheddar is snoring on his little bed, gigantic bed. It's more than half my size. Um, but um, again, that puppy interview. I don't know who it is that does them, but they'll just like get celebrities and release puppies at them. And
I love it. I think it's BuzzFeed.
okay, yeah, it's fantastic. A bunch of the puppies crawled into um Jeremy Allen White's lap and just fell asleep. And I was like, that's a good choice. There's no bad choices to be made there, pups, just so you're aware, but that is a good choice.
It could have been me.
Yes. I both want to be Jeremy Allen White in that case and the puppies. I would be happy being either. Um, what
Or
the
what about do you follow I think her name's Haley Bailey on TikTok? She does like a lot of
yes.
comedic stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, did you see her clip with Jeremy Allen White when she walked up to him at like the
No.
Golden Globes or whatever? I'll send it to you after this. But she walks up to him and she's like, basically like, I want to thank you like on behalf of women for your recent ad campaign. Because she said like on a video before that she was like, I'm gonna do it. If I see him at the Golden Globes, I'm gonna thank him. And then she actually did it. She walked up to him and he's always so sweet. He's like, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. You know, it's so funny. And she's just like, it means a lot to women.
Yeah. I would say it means a lot to anyone who has eyeballs. Period.
True.
I
The
think
girls, the gays, and the theys appreciate it as well.
yeah, I think whether they want to admit it or not, I think a lot of straight men were like, nice.
Respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um what I don't even remember where I was going before all this.
You were talking about what
Oh,
about if Zac Efron comes up at the I mean, we got Royal Rumble at the end of this month too.
we do. We do. I don't think he's going to be in the Rumble match. I would so, like I don't know. I might throw up actually. Like I might be so shocked that I would just throw up. Um
What about Bad Bunny?
I think Bad Bunny will be in the Rumble. That I think
I
is
gotta look up his tour dates now.
I think he's projected to be at the Rumble. They just haven't said
Whoa.
what capacity. Um,
You
just
know what?
sit at a
Last year they
Logan
announced like
Paul.
everybody but like four. I hope they don't announce. I hate when they do that. When they announce all the wrestlers except for like four or six. I'm like, I just want them to leave it. Just leave it alone.
Yeah, yeah, same. Um, I actively like avoid spoilers for the Rumble too. Like you wouldn't believe.
Hmm.
Like I want to know nothing. I want to preserve that for myself.
Yes.
But what all three of so they had the guy who played David. I don't know his name, I'm sorry, but he's British. I was very
Yes.
shocked. I was like, because he has a very convincing Texan accent that comes out of his mouth. um
Yeah. I
um
didn't know he was British either until I was watching an interview and I was like, what?
yep. Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White were the three that were there. Because I think the guy who played Michael is in something else and how to like was anyway. Um
Okay.
they were saying that or Jeremy Allen White was saying like they thought because they were actors like he was like can we like pad this more like please, and he was like this hurts a lot, but they did not get the padding. So
For
um
the ring, I'm guessing.
yeah, for the ring.
Yeah.
He wanted butt padding. He was like, I've seen drag queens with it. I feel like I could really save my tailbone.
My mind went to like how rock stars pad you know, the front
Oh,
of their but only for a split second, and then I heard what you were saying. I was like, it's gotta be the ring.
I know. So in the movie Labyrinth, David Bowie is wearing a cup because how his outfit was when he initially put it on,
Uh-huh.
you're seeing too much.
Oh my God, that's funny.
So it might have been more of a cod piece actually than a cup. But that's neither here nor there. I don't believe anyone, well, maybe they were wearing cod pieces in in Iron Claw. Who knows?
That's so funny.
Um, but yeah, I would not be surprised to see WWE pull it out of the bag and get like at least one of them there at WrestleMania, like front row type thing. Because they've all said that they're enjoying wrestling now, like that they've started like watching it. So,
I
but
saw an interview too where Zach was talking about how he had to put makeup on because he was purple half the damn time from like taking shots and stuff. I can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I believe that 100%. Um, for what was I gonna say? Oh, but I could definitely see this being Iron Claw being a catalyst to get more wrestling fans in. Specifically, I'm curious what the demographics are that have gone to see this movie because I guarantee it's
Yeah.
a lot of women. I guarantee a lot of women have gone because my friends were already going to see it. Like they weren't tagging along with me. I was tagging along with them. And it was
When I went, over a third of the theater was women.
yeah.
Like, well, and not even, I'm not even talking like women going with like their boyfriends. Like, there was like groups of women going to see this, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'm uh yes, bring in more female fans. Mwahahaha.
I was just gonna go, wahaha. Come to us.
Mm-hmm. Which also one of the reasons I want that to happen is because that means that by this time next year, like even if like the female base picks up 15% more, imagine how the internet trolls in the wrestling community will melt the fuck down.
You know what? This makes me think of this, but of another creator who isn't like as big and like they do content other than like wrestling stuff, but sometimes they post wrestling stuff, right?
Mhm.
And her and I are mutuals. Somebody commented on one of her videos, "You should watch this." And she did a video response to it, and she's like, I do. I do watch that. And because he approached it from a perspective of like, you should be doing this
Mhm.
and like essentially assuming she didn't already watch like a wrestling, it was like some wrestling YouTube channel that I don't even think I've heard of. And I commented in response to his thing, and I was like, you really should have asked if she watches that, and just did a smile, like not in like a dick way, just in like I was trying to be like diplomatic. And he wrote back, and he was like, "You're right, actually." And I was just like, "Oh," because I don't always feel like I get, you know, comments back like that. Because when I see other women gonna get shit on, I like to not jump in and be a savior, but to try to just be like, hey, different perspective here,
Mhm.
just to say something. Because I feel like I don't want to just leave a woman out to like by herself, and like there's like they get hit with so many trolls in their comments.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that in relation to what you said, and how I think having more women involved in wrestling would kind of force other fans to you have to kind of not only be more inclusive, but you have to just assume a lot better of people just because they don't look like you or have the same life experiences. It doesn't mean they're less of a fan than you.
Yeah. And WWE audiences, you see now, like at live events, at least, in the Northeast, the audience is like 50-50 and like, or thereabouts. Like I have to wait in bathroom lines now when I go to WWE events. Where I've never had to do that before. And that was like really the past 2-3 years that maybe right before the pandemic, that started happening. And I love seeing like it's a lot of dads that have their daughters, and like
Yes.
that is my favorite. And like the daughters are like, yeah. Um,
Dressed as Bianca or Liv, or it's just, yeah,
or yeah.
Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, mm, AEW, whenever I've gone there, that has not been my experience. It's still like the live events are more male dominated, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to wait in a bathroom line, you know.
Yes, exactly. And it's
Come
funny
on,
because I was just thinking
ladies.
about this too. This is not to shame Lita or Sable in any way, but I think about how like Bianca, Charlotte, like all of these other like wrestlers have very like iconic looks that I think could be very wearable and cosplayable. But you and I couldn't have been fucking like 8, 11-year-old girls trying to dress as Sable to a, you know what I mean? Because like where
Just
Sable had to get a lot of
handprints.
her outfits. Exactly, exactly. And so it's like or my mom would not have let me dress as like Lita when I was like 10 to go to a wrestling show. You know what I mean? So stuff like that. So I think about how getting a cool badass like robe, you could alter with that like a feather boa, whatever. You could totally go as Charlotte and get a crown, do whatever you wanted to do, get the belts. It's just a lot more accessible too. Like there's more like people to look at to like model your love of wrestling after who are strong women. It's really cool.
Yeah. Even like Natty and her cat ears, Rhea. You see little Rheas now a lot. Um,
Yes.
and it's what Rhea wears in the ring wouldn't be something that a kid could wear, but what she wears in her promos and stuff, or
Sure.
like leading up, like that's definitely something someone could wear, like a little kid.
Totally.
And it's really smart. Like I don't know if that was a choice made for that reason or like one of the reasons.
Mhm.
Also it's a good way to get more action figures, but
That's true. That's true.
um the yeah, I blame the cold. I don't know where I was going, but I had a point.
Or merch, right? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, granted, Rhea has some like you're not going to see a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old wearing a mommy's always on top shirt, most likely. But Rhea has a lot of great merch and a lot of cool stuff that you could buy. And like
Yes.
now it's like there's actually options to where you can buy that, Like I don't even think they had a fucking Sable shirt, at least for the first year or two of her career. And if they
Um,
did, it was probably very sexualized and like something that a 10-year-old child probably shouldn't be wearing?
I think they had a China shirt, like, which is
Mm-hmm.
insane. She was one of the top superstars. Like,
Yeah.
um, mm, 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 mm. Um, sorry. Anytime I think about that, I think about Jim Ross saying in one breath that like China was bringing in like, she was making all the appearances and, selling tickets just like the men were. And then him being like, ugh, she was making an unreasonable demand in her contract. She wanted to be paid as much as the top guys were. And I was just like, you motherfucker, you just said in another interview that she was
Yeah.
paying those goddamn numbers. I'm going to reach through this and strangle you because he was not, and this was years after he left WWE. Like he on Dark Side of the Ring. He was or something.
I've
He like,
seen that. Yeah, I've seen that clip.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was like, you're not understanding. You are the problem.
Right. It's so interesting how there's obviously like such a cognitive dissonance there too, and how there's just like you you literally just admitted this and you don't see that like you're literally saying this woman has value. Value should equate to dollar signs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She should be getting paid what she's worth. And you just
Yeah.
said what she's worth. Like,
She
mhm.
was so over, so over.
Yeah. Which is why I've never believed that excuse. So, but that's
Exactly.
that's a rant
Exactly.
for literally, I think once a month I go on it. But have you
As you should.
I think so too. Have you had the experience now, any man I've ever dated who has gotten into wrestling or has gone to wrestling events with me, I'm always the catalyst that either gets them into it or gets them back into it. Um,
Hmm.
and then when we meet other men in the wild, who are wrestling fans, like if they find out that, me
I
and
know where
whatever
this is
guy
going.
are wrestling fans, they direct all the questions to like the guy I'm with. It's always that.
Hmm.
And I remember each time too, like because like I am the psychotic nerd that I am, I like to research things. So I go like heavy into like my favorites or into different time periods and things like that. And which is definitely a neurodivergent trait. But as I'm
Totally.
saying that, I'm like, Um, but and they, I to their credit, each time they will usually say like, I'm kind of out of my depth here. You want to talk to her? She is the wrestling fan, like in this couple. And so many times the dude still won't even look at me. They will just keep talking
Yes.
to, and I'm just like, rage, rage.
Yeah, and I have to not in the situation with a partner, but even if I'm with guys who like wrestling, right? I have to still try if I try to advocate for myself and be like, why are you directing all the questions at them? They will ignore me and pretend like they did not hear a damn word that I said half the time. Or they will get super hyper defensive. It's always like one of the two.
Hmm. Have you also had the dudes who like will see that you like wrestling and then be like, hey, and use that
Oh,
as like
yeah. I mean, I know you haven't been in a lot of my lives, but there was one man that kept commenting about whether I would like basically peg him.
how did like that not immediately get flagged and like, oh God.
So what the funniest damn thing about it was I don't even know if they were in the live when I responded to it. I was like, because those some of my lives, it's really wonderful because people jump in, they're like, yeah, let's talk wrestling, and like so we'll just like shoot the shit for hours. And so I get behind on comments, and so I'm trying to scroll quick so I can get like catch up. And I was 40 comments behind, and by the time I got to that comment, I doubt he was even in there. But I'm sitting there and I'm just cracking up. And I'm like, I'm sorry, everybody. I just saw the funniest fucking comment. I'm sorry. Just give me a second. And then people were like, hold on. I'm trying to scroll back up to see it. What did I miss? And so like I didn't address what the comment was, but it was hilarious because people were just like, hold on. Which was it this one? Was it this? Because I get some out of pocket shit on those lives sometimes, you know?
Apparently, Jesus. Oh, I'll never forget, like, it was years ago and I was on maybe Tinder. I almost said TikTok. On Tinder, and like a guy messaged me and he was like, what would you like, and this was his opening, and he was like, what would you say if um I asked you to peg me? And I was in a very educational mood right then because I was like, I would tell you that you're on the wrong site. You should go to FetLife. And his response was like, what's that? And so I explained it. And then he wrote me back this long thing. He was like, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate that. I'm gonna go check out the site. And like, and then he was like, have a nice night.
Have a nice day.
And I was just like, I don't
So the last
often
time, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
oh, I don't often decide to be helpful or like give an like I was just in the mood where I was just like, let's see where this goes. This is what I would say. This is my genuine reaction because you are asking me to do that. Like, let's be clear of what this transaction is.
That's so funny. One time when I was on a dating app, I had this man, and I thought was making a joke at first. It was about feet, and then I kept making jokes back, and then he just kept talking about feet, and I was like, oh. Like he was like, would you like to sit on your couch and watch Netflix and just step on me with your feet and like put your feet all over my face? And I was just like, I watched it and I was like, I don't think, and like, I just was, he probably was like, in hindsight, was like, this person is very autistic because I was just like, I don't think that would be comfortable for you. Like, I was like, I really don't have, I was like, every part of me is cute. I'm very comfortable with my body, except my feet. I think that I was given like troll feet and then the rest of me is great. So I think that I just was like a dust. I don't know. This is not cute. Like this is not my winning trait is not my feet. And so it's just funny because I've gotten comments like that before. I was like, I don't think you know. Like even my mom was like, hey, what do you think about being on like one of those like sites like with where you just share pictures of your feet or something? Like my mom was trying to help me like brainstorm ideas to make money and she was like, yeah, like you should do something like that. Like just genuinely. I was like, Mom, have you fucking seen my feet? No. Nobody wants that.
You'd be surprised. There is a woman that I came across on TikTok who through selling her feet pics and like old socks, she has paid to turn her part of her home into a cat sanctuary. And it is my favorite thing. Like that's what she uses her feet pick money for, taking care of cats that she rescues and then like finding them homes.
I love that. Hey, if you're gonna make money off the patriarchy, like that's the way to do it.
Help some pussy out.
Wait, is this gonna be the episode name?
No, 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 no. Although, I mean, it kind of ties in the Iron Claw, helps some pussy out.
You know, totally changing subjects, but jumping back to the Iron Claw, I really do love that scene where they're at the party, where they all snuck out and they to go take Michael to play music at that party,
Yeah.
and Kevin's with Amy and he's just pointing across. He's like, "Look at my beautiful brothers over there," and it was just like this very proud, loving, brotherly energy. It was just beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, there's this very genuine interaction of like that, like you could see like actually happening of him being like, what do you think of my like crazy family? And her being like, I love them. Um,
Yeah,
you know, the brothers are all very lovable. It's also that scene like at the wedding where the brothers were all dancing together, which I didn't realize Jeremy Allen White is a classic, like it is did dance lessons for a long period of his life, like ballet,
really.
jazz,
Okay.
tap. Yeah. I think ballet was one of them. So, and I was like, like I did not necessarily get that from that scene, but I don't think you were supposed to. It was so like because I know the story and like you know movie making like that scene. It was one of those things where it's like this is one of those perfect moments. We're gonna have our lungs ripped out very soon.
Yeah.
And sure enough.
I feel like I didn't even see it coming because I was, well, when they were like doing at the toilet, I was like, oh shit, you know? But
Hmm.
during the dance scene, I feel like I just get so lost in things. I'm just kind of like dancing to myself, like, wee. And then I'm like, why?
Yeah, I knew. Oh, mm. It was one of those like moments that filled me with dread. I'm like, this is too perfect. It's also how I am in my own life when things are going really well. I'm just like, oh, this is a great moment. Something, it's gonna hurt. Okay.
Uh-oh, what's coming?
Mm-hmm. So that's just how life is. Eventually, something sad will happen or bad.
Or your basement gets flooded or
Tree falls or yeah.
on the pool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cheddar loves running around that giant hole in the backyard.
I thought of you last night because I pulled up to a Cracker Barrel and there was a fucking giant tree branch just landed barely inches from missing the Cracker Barrel. And it was just like someone just lazily threw caution tape over it, like didn't even put up a sign or anything. It's just they like wrapped the end of it and then just like walked away. I was like, all right.
I mean, I don't think you should need a caution sign there or like or a sign like the tape is sufficient unless you know someone's visually impaired, in which case you're looking at a lawsuit.
Well, yeah, I was looking from a lawsuit standpoint because it was literally in the road. This
Oh,
giant ass like yeah, it was like the size of a tree. It was like this I say branch, but it was fucking huge. But
yeah.
it's Arizona.
Yeah, currently right now, well, last night I sent whenever it gets really cold here, I like to send MJ screenshots of my weather app. And I think it was like 20 degrees, but with wind chill it felt like 3.
Ah, God.
Yeah. It's always I can always tell when it's that cold out because when Cheddar comes back in from going potty, because he still likes to run around, his nose and his gums will be red from like
Oh.
from and he's so happy about it. He's just like, I feel alive.
Oh, that's cute. Meanwhile, Freddie, if it's fucking like 50 degrees out, he's like, why does the world hate me?
Yeah, I do have to put Cheddar sweater on him.
Meanwhile, it's fucking probably gonna be 70 here today. This is my child. Cuddled up on this blanket. So he's
Um,
still he's still not hot. He's soaking up the sun.
I'm guessing you guys don't have a code blue that you have to worry about out there. Cold blue just means it's going to be really cold and they
Code blue
open, yeah, and they open extra
heating
facilities.
centers.
Yeah, they open like
Hmm.
um some of the city parks will open up like various buildings just to get the homeless in to get them warm at night.
So it's interesting. Me and someone were just talking about this last night. They have very few programs. A lot of money in recent years went into a fund to put up a bunch of signs that discourage panhandling and say donate to us instead. And not just that, but when you look up what you're actually donating to, it's actually an organization that helps to displace homeless people and push them out of the cities and to like get them out of camps and stuff to quote unquote clean up the city. So yeah, you're not necessarily donating to a worthy cause, but
Yeah,
Arizona.
that does not surprise me.
No, not at all.
Um, Final thoughts on the Iron Claw.
It was amazing. Go see it.
Yeah, yeah. Bring tissues.
Whether you love wrestling, yeah, bring tissues. And whether you love wrestling or not, like, or if you have someone who like is like, oh, I kind of want to see it, but I don't know, I'm not really a big wrestling fan. It's about stories and people and relationships.
Yeah, because like as hard as I was crying, my friends who were, one not a wrestling fan, the other one super casual, tears. At one point, after Mike's suicide or Michael's suicide, my one friend leaned down and said to me, she's like, okay, I was not expecting it to be this sad. And I didn't have the heart to tell her because I didn't want to spoil it, but I was like, we're not done yet. There's
Yeah.
one more who has to die. Like, so
Also, Chris, I think I could be messing up his name. I apologize to anybody if I messed it up, but I think that was another Von Erich brother was Chris. He also died. He just there was not enough time in the movie to share that story, and I believe he also died via suicide as well.
huh. What was the oldest brother's name?
I can't remember the oldest brother's name, but it was a different brother than the small child you see it towards the
There
end
is a
there.
Chris. 2, 4, 5 there. I'm looking it up now. Members. Okay. Fritz was
No, you're good.
dad. So Jack was the oldest son. Um,
Jack.
do you want to hear how he died? Because they didn't talk about it in the movie.
Yeah, go for it. Am I gonna get pissed?
No, it's a freak accident. I can see why they thought they were cursed. He died at age 6 in Niagara Falls, March 7th, 1959, after he stepped on a trailer tongue and was electrically shocked and then fell into melting snow puddle face down and drowned.
Holy shit.
Like
So what wait, I'm sorry. What was he electrocuted on?
he a trailer tongue. So I think probably
Like the hitch essentially on the back of the trailer?
yeah, had electricity going through it. And he was electrically shocked and then fell face first in a melting snow puddle and drowned. I remembered he drowned, but I didn't remember like that.
What the hell are the chances of that?
Yeah. Evan, David, Carrie, Mike, Chris. Okay. Um, so he's the youngest. He was short, 5'4", asthmatic, and had extremely brittle bones, which were prone to breaking. So, he did try to wrestle. He managed
Oh,
one,
Chris?
yeah. He managed
Okay.
one major feud. Uh, yeah, he wrestled against Steve Austin at one point.
Oh
Um,
shit.
After several years not being able to succeed in wrestling business, Chris became depressed and frustrated. He was also heartbroken over the loss of his brother Mike, and in 1991, age 21, he shot himself in the head.
Yep.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, crazy. So I mean, can you imagine if they would have added that in? That would have been even heavier, even darker, you know?
That had to feel so shitty to Kevin, though, that his brother got cut out. Like,
Yeah.
can you
I'm really
imagine?
curious what that conversation was like. No, I can't.
Like, oh, like, well, he's just, and like, they don't even mention him. He's not on the dock. He's nowhere. Like, he just is, like, ooh, I, I, I could have dealt with an extra half an hour of the movie for for that. Like,
Yeah.
geez, that's rough. How did the dad die?
Yeah.
Wondering. Oh, lung cancer in 92 from all the smoking. Um, there are three, I think. Yeah, there's three Von Erichs from the third generation who are wrestling. Um, Ross Von Erich. Um, he's the son of Kevin. Um, he was trained by Harley Race and obviously his father. Um, where is so he's actually in MLW
Oh, interesting. Okay.
along with his brother, Marshall Von Erich. He is named after like so he's Kevin Marshall. Um, but he obviously doesn't wrestle as Kevin Von Erich. He
Sure.
wrestles
Sure,
as
sure.
Marshall Von Erich. And he's in a tag team with his brother in MLW. And then there's Lacey, who is the daughter of Carrie Von Erich.
I did not even know he had a daughter.
No, I didn't either. She was previously with WWE and TNA. And she was a former TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champion, and she retired in 2010.
Holy shit.
Huh. I will definitely be doing a deep dive on her because, yeah, I had zero idea he had kids. Um,
Sabrina, the women wrestling forgot. That would be
right?
a good one.
Yeah. I'm just going to screenshot this because that will probably be our next Women Wrestling Forgot
Love it.
or
Yeah,
didn't
you know
know
what?
about in general.
Yeah. You know, that would be kind of a fun episode to do in general with like things that we didn't know about wrestling, you know? Or in general, like things like I don't know, like if we each found like five like things we didn't know about wrestling and then like brought it like 'cause it's things that other people might not know either, you know?
Yeah. Like we'll dive into that more off podcast, but yes, I agree with that.
Could be cool.
But alrighty.
It
And
makes
again,
sense. One last thought, sorry. It makes sense because of one for time constraints, but two also like um the nature of the movie. I'm sure that Kevin would not have wanted Carrie to look like a horrible father, for example, for leaving behind a child you know, because I think people would focus so much on that, you know what I mean? And like that's obviously like a darker commentary, a bigger conversation, but I think they didn't want to pull away from the overarching storyline there.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and also like we who knows the timeline? Like she might not have even been born when he died.
True. Very true. I kind of wish they would have done like a little shout out to her at the end though. I don't think they did.
I don't know. Maybe she lives on the family compound.
I want a family compound.
Not with my family, but you know, maybe with somebody else's.
I was gonna say I'll join somebody else.
Yeah. Not mine, but you know.
That's funny.
But alrighty. So what we've learned from this episode is don't smoke while you're pregnant, don't eat cigarettes, don't drink beer when you're 2.
Don't forget tissues if you're gonna go see the Iron
Iron
Claw.
Claw, yep. Go see the Iron Claw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like there was
Just
another piece of advice
oh,
we got.
don't drink when you're 2 years old.
Yeah. But yeah. We will be back again next week. And we should have a special guest with us.
Yes.
From MLW, not of on Eric, that I'm aware of.
Plot twist.
Right. So yes, Alex Kane will be joining us next week. Yeah, that's when it'll be airing.
Oh, you announced it. You said it.
Yep.
Let's go.
Right. I get a message from him immediately after we are done filming. Like, I'm sorry, Sabrina. We have to reschedule. He doesn't sound
Hey,
like that.
about that.
I've decided I hate you, and
you copied my vegan recipe.
which
I don't
sent
care
you.
that I gave you a recipe.
Right.
Exactly. Do it better.
Thought it was a good first attempt. Alrighty. Well, we will see you all next week. And oh, in the name of our Lord and Savior, the only person in the wrestling community that was in this movie. Kidding. John Cena.
He was at the premiere.
He was.
John Cena.
Yep. Hustle,
Hustle,
loyalty,
loyalty,
and respect.
and respect.
Yabadoo.
Yabadoo.